Hi, folks. How are ya? It's Friday. Woohoo!
Good morning. Good morning.
JB, you look so perky for a Friday. It's unbelievable. How are you this perky?
I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, Frank. As you know, and others may know, I went to the Red Hot Chili Peppers show here in Orlando, which started 2 hours late because of thunderstorms, and it rained pretty much through the first 2 hours of the opening acts and all that. But it was a really fun time, and I'm here because D3 football fans demand us to be ready to go on Friday mornings to preview Week 3.
Hold on. Let's take a look at what you were involved with last night. Oh, hold on. We'll require a little audio, I think. We may rerun this in a second, folks, but you can see it was a pretty crazy time. Actually, we may not rerun it because I don't want to get DMCA'd on Facebook either.
Yeah, yeah, right. Ellie says that's enough of the rock music.
Yeah.
There she goes.
So anyway, it seems like a good time. Seems like Ellie's having a ball in the background there, and you tell her I miss her. But JB, it seems like a quieter week this week. Am I wrong with that, or just going through all the games, it seemed like this might be the kind of break week a lot of teams kind of built in.
Yes and no. I mean, there's a couple of big conference games still that are going to be kicking off the season that are going to have an impact on the playoffs. So, yeah, I'd say probably 90% of this weekend. Ellie, come on. But for the most part, we're talking about 5 to 10 really big games, but a lot of other stuff flying under the radar. There's some random trophies up for grabs this weekend, Frank. The Transit Trophy, which we might talk about in a little bit. There's the Maple Sap Bucket that's up for grabs this weekend. So, still some stuff going on in D3.
Well, you've sometimes been called sappy as a co-host, so hey, maybe the Maple Sap Bucket will be right up your alley. I'll just leave it at that. If you get Ellie, I will get us to a theme song. Hey, Ellie! Hey, Ellie! This is season 15 of In the Huddle.
My vicious attack dog. Ellie! Cut that shit.
Try and get our technology to work right here. We're going to go right into our games here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Gavin Gray. I'm not sure that is coming up on this show. Just so you know, folks, Gavin Gray will be coming up here, so get ready for that to happen. But JB, let's talk about regions 1 and 2 to start things off here, real quick.
Yeah. So we get a couple games tonight. Morsel State's going to try to go 3-0 for. I don't know. It might be the first time in a while. WestCon is going to Westfield State, but mostly the games on Saturday are going to be conference play. Muhlenberg versus Usinus, which gave Hopkins a good run for their money. A little out of conference stuff with Montclair State, Salve, Union Springfield, Widener Wilkes. But Grove City at Carnegie Mellon, I think, is going to be the biggest game of Region 2 this weekend. Really exciting matchup between two strong teams. Grove City has the offense. Carnegie Mellon has the defense. Utica, Western New England is interesting. SUNY Maritime against Merchant Marine. We got NESCAC kicking off with Trinity and Tufts, Middlebury Amherst. Framingham State versus Mass Dartmouth is basically the de facto MASCAC championship game, in my opinion. Whoever wins that will probably go to the playoffs. I feel like it's going to be the Rams. We'll do some picks later on. Take it from there.
Yeah, it's an interesting panoply of games, to be sure, and I would tell you that, realistically, light pickings, but the couple of games that are there that are strong games, no doubt. The Framingham State game, the UMass Dartmouth, legacy that's going on there in terms of those two teams just battling it out. UMD, remember, lost to Anna Maria in that score fest last week.
Yeah.
Framingham State had a nice win versus St. John Fisher, and so it's setting up like Framingham State should run over them, but it never turns out that way when it's these two teams playing. Grove City, Carnegie Mellon, I actually called the game of the week on D3Football.com. I know there are other games, but this is going to begin to solve the pack in the five-way race that may exist in the pack this season. So that's why I did that. So as we go along here, let's look at your Regions 3 and 4 games as well, and I'll let you take it away from here.
Well, obviously the headliner is Whitewater coming down here to Georgia, looking for a soul to steal, as they say. Get your fiddles out. But yeah, Barry is going to host the number 4 team in the country. But there's other good games in 3 and 4. Shenandoah versus Maryville is interesting. I mean, Maryville hasn't won yet, but they've challenged in both of their games. Baldwin Wallace versus John Carroll, the Cleveland teams that won't exactly refer to each other by name. The other team from University Heights, or I think they called it. Hope versus Mount St. Joe's is good. Howard Payne versus Hendricks. Shrine versus Franklin. These are all great games that we can see this weekend. But obviously, as we picked them, UW versus Barry, and you like Shrine versus Franklin over Baldwin Wallace and JCU?
I did it more not to pick the identical to you. It's an important game, no doubt. But also Ohio Northern versus Heidelberg, which does not appear on this slide, I think is a pretty big game.
I missed that one. That's my bad. But yeah.
But
sorry,
look,
Coach Donaldson.
There are a lot of
big games.
Sprints
afterwards.
Yeah, and actually, I might have picked on that game a little bit in some of the columns and quick hits that it's if it hasn't already been published, it will be published soon on D3Football.com. But yes, sir. But no, again, kind of slimmer pickings overall in week 3 in Region 3 for the second straight week, and they're going to start to ratchet things up starting in week 4. The Barry game is going to be interesting to watch. Which Wisconsin Whitewater team will show up, because we've seen 2 of them. Realistically, we've seen 2 of them this season.
Yeah.
So
and Frank, this being more of a playoff savvy guy than me, I mean, let's say Barry doesn't win the SAA and they're so they're 8-2. Remember we talked last week about 8-2 teams making the playoffs. If they give Whitewater a good run for their money and they don't win the SAA, let's say Trinity wins the SAA, wouldn't Barry be a pretty solid Pool C team if they can show up this weekend? I mean, this game is important for the Vikings to play their what's off, because they could still get a playoff bid potentially, right?
I mean, yeah. Look, anything is possible. The way the top teams in different conferences have sort of eaten themselves up and cannibalized things here when you look at what the Pool C future will look like. Because realistically, Pool C scenarios are going to be you lose one of your conference games and you lose one of your out-of-conference games if you were looking at you as an 8-2 team, on the outside looking in. Normally we think of you as a 9-1 team with that one conference loss because you didn't win your conference, but we are in a position here where I don't know if we're going to have enough quality teams at 9-1 ultimately to look at just 9-1 teams. That 8-2 teams are going to probably be prevalent enough and necessary enough to look at, that a team like Barry, if they were to lose this in a close game and lose a game to Trinity, let's say, just out of pulling things out of thin air for scenarios, they could indeed be looked at as a strong 8-2 team. Look, the SAA did pretty well for itself last year when it came to being in the playoffs with 2 teams. So, yeah, it's not out of the realm. So we wanted to talk to, as we teased on our screen here a little bit ago by accident, Gavin Gray, a former guest of In the Huddle, and he had a lot to say about the situation with respect to this game against Whitewater this weekend and Barry's disappointing 2021 and hopes for a not so disappointing 2022. Gavin, thanks for joining us. And by the way, we dug back into the archives. This is not your first appearance on our show. Back in 2020, I think it was March of 2020, actually. Here is Gavin Gray back then, and here he is. Back then, he was preparing to win the spring title for the conference, the SAA, and great job there. But fall 2021 didn't turn out as well as spring 2021 did, Gavin, and probably some disappointment on your team about how things played out ultimately. Tell us about 2021 and what you and your team learned from it that's going to make 2022 a different year in your minds.
I think the biggest thing is we learned how to handle adversity. When things weren't going our way in 2021, maybe we didn't handle the situation as we should have. So coming into this year, our mindset is clear. There's we're focused on one goal, and that's winning a conference championship. So taking the lessons we've learned in 2021 and applying it this year, I don't think we're going to have the same year that we had in 2021.
Well, you're off to a 2-0 start. I think you guys put up 56 points in week two, so it seems like the offense is clicking. Last season, you guys went up to Wisconsin to play the Warhawks. This year, they're coming down to Valhalla Stadium. What did you guys learn from that experience in playing up in Wisconsin, and how can you apply it to this weekend's big game?
We learned the top teams play a different type of football, and that's not a type of football that you usually see down south. So it was a great learning experience getting to go up there, seeing how the top teams play. We learned that the speed of the game picks up quicker, and so we're excited for them to come down here this year and get to see what Barry's all about. So again, taking what we learned last year, especially when going up there, and getting to use that as fuel to the fire for this week. So.
Games like that, though, and we've been proponents of these, reach games, I guess you call them, games against teams that are a little bit maybe out of your reach to beat, but at least you're going to put up a good effort and see what happens, and who knows, any given Saturday. But they can usually go one of two ways when you play a game like that. They could either teach you a lot about yourself, or you could possibly, what's the best way to say it, get distracted by the result and have it affect your season adversely. How do you think it affected you last year? Did you learn from that game, aside from the speed and the differentials between the teams? What did you learn about yourselves in that game a year ago?
We learned to not look at the not to not look at the name on the front of the jersey. It was more, um, how do we play? How do we want to play? And focusing on ourselves and not so much on what they do. Because if you do that, then you like you said, you kind of get distracted. You worry about them too much when really it's just you're playing football. It's something you've done since you were little. I mean, sure, the speed, the physicality, the strength, that's all changing. But at the end of the day, it's still football. I think that's something that we learned playing them last fall.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that we've learned is we've gotten to know, programs like Barry and conferences like the SAA is that you guys have really the competitive level is keeps seem to be rising up. I mean, Barry had been kind of a long time standing conference champ there for a while, but now we've got teams like Trinity, Birmingham Southern, others that are kind of getting into the mix. What do you see from a sort of a conference 3,000 foot view of what's been going on down here in the South?
I think you see more people learning about Division III football. I mean, just looking at the football down here, it's either SEC or that's really all you hear about. We have some Division II schools, but for the most part, Division III is kind of on the back burner. When looking up north, they don't have as many Division II schools, and it's more Division III. So I think schools around here are starting to gain some rapport with student athletes coming out of high school, and they're seeing that Division III is an opportunity to show their talents, especially when you have guys like Mason Kinsey from Barry going to the NFL. They realize it's not the end all be all Division III. If they're talented enough, they can make it.
Coach K is somebody we've chronicled before. His history at Grove City, his friend Todd Gibson, the AD up there, has nothing but great things to say about his versatility as an athlete, as a football player back then. You and he both were on our show, as I said, you were, but so was he a year and a half ago. What is it about him that has made this program such a cohesive unit, something that you've wanted to stick around and play for as long as you have been there? What is it about Coach K specifically that you can share with the country you enjoy, you like about him?
I mean, he's a player's coach. It's a two-way street. If you ever have any problems about what he's doing or what's going on, then you can always walk into that office and sit down and talk with him, and he's gonna shoot you straight. I think that's something that guys can appreciate. Um, he does a great job of making sure that everyone's involved. After the games, you see him talking to every family. It doesn't matter if they played or not. He's going around and he's making sure that he's showing everyone that he cares because he really does. And I think that's something that sticks with the families and the guys, and that's a coach you ultimately want to play for.
Absolutely. So, Gavin, we'll kind of take off the quarterback helmet for a second, and we'll now go to you as a local expert of Mount Berry, Georgia. And for the folks maybe coming down from Wisconsin or other parts of the country to see this game, I understand you guys are a little bit west of Atlanta, maybe close to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and so it's still pretty hot down here in Florida. I don't know if you guys get a little break from the heat because of the elevation from the mount. But what is the game day experience like there at Valhalla? What a great name for a stadium. And I don't know if there's like a Thor mascot or somebody running around with a hammer or the immigrant song blasting or what. But what's game day going to be like for the fans that come to Mount Berry on Saturday?
I mean, it's a fun and energetic environment. I mean, you have families tailgating out. You have a bunch of students. All the students usually go to the games. We do a Viking walk where they actually carry the axe. It's funny you mentioned that, carry a Viking axe into the stadium. But I mean, it's a fun, relaxed environment. Everyone's excited to support, us, and I'm sure the fans of Whitewater will be happy to be able to be down here. It's a great game day experience. I look forward to it every Saturday we get to play at home. I love our fans.
Regardless of the result on Saturday, there's still quite a season to go. SAA play will be in full effect. What is the success benchmark for Gavin Gray looking at his Barry team this year, now that you're more of a leader than ever of that team? What will define 2022 as whether it was a success or not when you look back at this season after it's all done?
I think a conference championship. I think you set that expectation high. We won five in a row up until last year, so I think that's kind of always the expectation. And anything less of that is kind of a failure. I mean, it doesn't matter about wins or losses. We just want the conference championship, and I think that's something that we realized last year. We got too caught up in, oh, we need to win this game, like we have to win this one. No, we should just go out play every game to win. And at the end of the day, like we want the conference championship. I think that's all to be said.
Well, looking at the schedule real quick, this game, will go down one way or another. But then it looks like you got a 2 week break to prepare for your conference opener. Seems like that was the same thing as last year. Do you think having that extra week to prepare helps, or would it be better just to keep on going?
I think it definitely helps, especially coming playing Whitewater, which is kind of um, a big game for us. We want to take advantage of this opportunity, but then I think it's good to have that break so that you can refocus in for conference. Because I think conference is a little bit of a different mindset than your first three games, which are non-conference and may not impact as much, not have as much of an impact on the conference season as it does when you play those conference games. So I think it's kind of a time that you can flip that switch and be like, okay, it was conference, like let's lock in, let's do this thing now. So
Last question for you. Tell us about that offensive line of yours, because first off, if you didn't talk about them, you would never hear the end of it as a quarterback. But you've got some experience there for sure. You've got guys that are willing to protect you. Your height, obviously, compared to some quarterbacks, may not be the same advantage that others would have out there. So they have an extra big duty to protect you, to give you that line of sight that you need. Give us some information, name names, all you want. Tell us about the O line.
I mean, I can't say enough about those guys. I love them to death. You got David Billiard, Max McMahon, Hayden Cagle, Terrence Thorpe, Tony Garcia, and even some guys like Cole Simmer that are hurt. But I can't say enough about those guys. They do a crazy good job of protecting me. They communicate, make sure everyone's on the same page, and I can't say enough about Coach Decora, who's the offensive line coach. He just came in this summer, and he's really changed the mindset of the offensive line. It's not so much about just holding up as much as it is about let's attack the defensive line and let's attack the linebackers whenever they want to step in the box. Again, I can't say enough about how good of a job they do. I mean, even my running backs, uh, Josh Rogers, Brandon Cade. I mean, those guys hold up in pass protection just as well as the offensive line, and I think it just speaks to Coach Sakura, who knows what he's talking about, and ultimately at the end of the day wants to protect me, which is helping the football team, and protecting those guys as well.
Well, Frank, I think since Gavin's on such a good roll, we should just keep it going here. As you kind of know our deal, Gavin, we always like to give our student athlete guests a chance to shout out any friends, family, teammates, coaches, etc. We've really had fun talking with you. Good luck on Saturday, but the floor is yours, Gavin Gray.
Thank you. I guess I got to give a shout out to Coach Dooling, who's the offensive coordinator. The schemes we run, I don't know how he comes up with them, but I mean they're awesome. It's so quarterback friendly. Um, uh, Obviously, Coach Cora, offensive line, my wide receivers, DeAndre Wilson, Cam Kawa, Bryce Herring, Michael Lucky. I mean those guys are open every play. I literally don't have an option that's covered. Whether that's a back getting out or one of those guys getting open, but I mean even the whole team. I can't say enough about this team. I feel like we're a unit. We're closer than ever. The closest team that I think I've seen, and that's a testament to Coach K, to the coaches, to the team, and what we really want to accomplish this season. So
You got to love his real.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm going to look for here? His compared to 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whenever it was when we had him on the show. He was a little
He's matured
timid,
a lot.
but fun. Yeah, he has matured a lot. But the answer about Wisconsin Whitewater last year and what they sort of saw in terms of the level of D3 football and the wherewithal to admit out loud, look, that's not the football we're used to. And we came out there and we basically, he didn't say it this way, but this is what I read into it. We got punched in the mouth with the speed and the strength, and we didn't know really what to say or do about that in that situation. Now that they do know that, coming into this season with this game, they're 2-0. This could play out a little bit differently. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously having that prior experience will help them as far as expectations. I mean, at the end of the day, Whitewater is going to be bigger, stronger, and faster. I mean, they are pretty much compared to 236 other Division three teams out there, maybe, and they just beat the number one team in the country. So they'll come in, with a bit of a swagger and confidence. But Barry's experience of going up to Wisconsin, playing with these guys for 4 quarters, they'll be more prepared. And it's their home court. Valhalla, they'll have Thor with the axe leading them into the thing, which is great. I love the Viking mascot in Valhalla Stadium. So I think it's going to be a better game this year.
I think you're right. It'll be entertaining, I think, and one to watch for, definitely. I will tell you which games I'm going to, but that is not one of them soon. But first, we have one more grouping. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, the Frank Rossi, I'm not going to travel this season as much since last year. Total BS. This guy is already gone to what, 3 games in the
Four.
first 4 in the first 2 weeks, and plus you're going to Texas next weekend. So much for that. Oh, I'm going to take it easy. Maybe it won't hit 20 games, but I think you're going to hit the teens, I'm sure.
Let's go to Regions 5 and 6, where my friend James Baker will tell you about some games here, and I'll explain why we differ on Region 6 a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, Hardin-Simmons and UW-Platteville was interesting. A little bird told me that the Cowboys have not left the state of Texas in nearly 10 years. Last time they went on the road for a game like this was 2013. Platteville coming off a big win over Bethel. Sure, they didn't have their starting quarterback, but they still won that game. And who knows? I mean, Hardin-Simmons is trying to make a case to get back into the playoffs. UW-Platteville's in the top 25. So is Hardin-Simmons. Redlands versus Linfield normally would be more exciting, but this year Redlands is 0-2. Kind of a letdown season. Illinois College.
Whoa. Don't underplay that game. It's my game of the week. What are you doing over there?
Well, okay. So why is that your game of the week, Frank? Because, I mean, Redlands is really struggling, it seems.
You know what? Linfield's game against Huntingdon still is in my mind, and I don't think Redlands has really shown up yet. Yeah, Redlands hasn't shown up yet. I think Redlands is a better team than what they're producing out there, and I think this could actually be a challenge game. I think this actually could be close. And I know I've said that about Redlands Linfield games before and looked like a complete jackass on this show, and I'm used to that. But, it is what it is. But I do think it's going to be a close game, even at Linfield. No offense to Hardin-Simmons, Platteville. That's a big game, too, for sure. But if an upset occurred in a game like that, we really would have a problem throughout Division III with that whole 9-1 Pool C thing that we were just talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Elsewhere, I mean, obviously, Illinois College and Monmouth, a big Region 5 game. Augsburg, Martin Luther, another kind of local rivalry, sort of, in some respects, different conferences, but still. And then we've got a lot of interesting West Coast games. Claremont Mudd Scripps is kind of in the lead in the SCIAC. Whitworth trying to compete at the top of the Northwestern Conference. Chapman versus George Fox. The Foxies are 2-0. Maybe they go 3-0. And then, Pomona Pitzer, Pacific Lutheran, Laverne. Hey, got some red-eye games late night on Saturday if you really want to stay up late.
Very good of you to give us our late-night viewing options here on In the Huddle. Before we go to predictions, last night on what's the best way to say this? Rowan Radio, we ended up with a Coach Accorsi rebuttal, essentially, with respect to the video filming situation. Derek Jones on the coach's show decided to broach the issue with him, and the audio was pretty poor. We posted the transcript of it on our Twitter pages, but more or less he said, look, the iPad didn't end up on the field somehow. Probably they were calling down things that we're seeing, if that's the case, or on the headsets. That the tablet was overheating frequently. That Google essentially, if you Google this rule, you'll see all kinds of different things that would point to 2016 and when they try to change the rule and everything else, which last I checked, you don't Google this rule. You probably go to the rule book to see its existence or not. It's pretty easy to find. We found it. If we can find it and we're not coaches, I don't know. But so long story short, he took responsibility for it, which is great, and we appreciate that at least. Okay, cool. So, and he said it multiple times. He would give a quasi excuse, but say, "Look, it's still on me." And okay, at least he kept that narrative throughout. Points for that, Coach. The problem, obviously, is I actually want to go to some text messages from coaches last night that we were sent. One coach had said to me, don't know what's more embarrassing for the game of football, their own coach and his 5 to 6 different excuses for cheating, the fact that nothing's going to happen to him. I wish we could go back to the cut block rules of 2016. It was more beneficial. for this coach's offense. So many rules, just disappointing. That was kind of the mantra there.
Salty.
Yeah, we got another coach that came in and said, of course, he's talking about 2016 rules. I'm sorry, but what? He shouldn't have spoken. Now I'm wondering if they've been doing this since 2017, since apparently it's, quote, confusing. Or why was this the first game since the rule passed in 2016 they used the terminology?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and
the worms opened.
somebody else stated to us not buying it. It was never allowed at any NCAA level, and he is the NJAC rep at the AFCA meetings, so he would absolutely know. The quip about, quote, both sides is a dagger at Springfield, I couldn't quite tell, or if it was a dagger, would be poor form. I haven't read the box score, but would be interested in Rowan defense in the second quarter versus the first and second half. Well, they did go down 14-0 to Springfield early in that game, if I remember correctly, and had turned things around. You know, sometimes saying more is less in terms of less smart for your situation. I think in some ways he should have just said, we screwed up, let's move on. We're not going to ever do it again. I think the excuses actually dug him into a deeper hole because as they asked the question, look, you've been doing this for 6 years? Is that what's been going on here, or what's going on? So you got to be careful with this stuff. You got to be careful in the first place. Go look at the rule book, please. But then from there, if you're caught doing something like this, fall on your sword and move on. That's any consultant you talk to that deals with these types of PR issues would tell you. Fall on the sword, move on. Focus on other things. They spent an entire 6 minutes of that show talking about this, and people picked their own things to pick out. We didn't point anything to anybody when we were pointing this out to folks. They listened themselves, and that was their reactions to it. So your final thoughts on this before we go to predictions?
I mean, the coach's comments that you've rattled off kind of put it all in perspective. I mean, obviously there's just not a lot of support or a lot of belief in that kind of thing. So I'm just going to drop it because, oh, man. Oof. Yep.
Yeah. So there's that, and I think it might be a good time to switch screens here in a moment and get us to a point where we're going to make our fabulous, famous predictions here today. And we have a new header up there just in case you need to be reaffirmed. Yeah, 9 minutes, only 10 games today that we've got. There's just not much to predict, but if you notice the top screen there, or top of the screen, JB, yeah. Don't get used to it, buddy. Don't get used to it. Okay, that's all I'm going to tell you. So,
let's see what we got here.
Hold on. We got to get William Tell up, and he wants to say on this whole thing. So, you know, it's a big process in this whole thing. There we go. Seems loud, and it's probably not. It's just in my ear. Anyway, The clock will start when you start telling. When I start telling you about the first game, a game that I'm going to be attending. One of the two games I'll be attending on Saturday. It is in Region 1, Union versus Springfield, and let's get that clock rolling right now as I tell you that. Look. This is not Worcester State. This is not 76-7 land, and this is not going to play out the way that, you know, a lot of alumni from Union College are probably hoping with last week's score in the books. One of the things that a coach had said to me elsewhere about this situation is that, look, still got Andre Ross. You still got Ike Arabor at Union. The quarterback is somebody with less experience and maybe a couple less attributes than Will Bellamy. They admit that much. But still, the offensive line at Union is very strong. Maybe we have underestimated them a little bit. I'm going to give Union the slight edge here, very slight edge, 28-27.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, as strong as Springfield is, and they gave Rowan all they could handle, the Liberty League is just a step up from the NUMAC in general. I'll take Union also, but I think it's going to be close, like you said, 31-28.
SCAC conference game, and you'll see we'll put the conference to the left when it is a conference game. Framingham State at Mass Dartmouth.
I mean, I think Framingham's run game looked really good against Fisher last weekend. They just have a little too much, and I think after what we saw with the Amcats, it's a one-horse race in the MassCAC, so I'll take Framingham to win 31-17.
It's tough. I'm going to take the proverbial upset here at home. I think UMass Dartmouth, they've got to play 60 minutes of football. Dante Avila Santos, I've said your name correctly 8 times in the season for once. Please, if you don't make me look wrong here, that you can play 60 minutes of damn football, Dante. 60 minutes. I want to see some recognition of this on Twitter. I want to see it on Twitter that you are going to play 60 minutes of damn football Saturday, Dante, with your team. UMD wins 30-27.
Fired up. Damn. Okay.
The other game I'm going to be attending on Saturday,
Transit
WPI.
Trophy, baby.
I've never been to a Transit Trophy game, I don't believe, and so we're going to try this one out. Yeah, all these years because doing Union football games.
A couple of years ago, maybe not. Okay.
I don't think I
It's in
did.
your backyard, though.
Okay, well we'll look back at it. It's possible. I'll retract that.
Games, right?
RPI looks strong on defense. They've got to get their offense obviously ratcheted up. So does WPI for that matter, though. They were a little one-dimensional when I saw them against Endicott. Low-scoring game here, 14-10, which is unusual for the Transit Trophy game. Watch it be a 40 fest, basically. Go.
RPI 21-17. It's going to be close, but I think the Engineers are stronger.
Wait, which? Yeah. What? Wait, so who'd you pick?
The Rensselaer Isernias.
Go City at Carnegie Mellon. It's yours. That's a packed game, by the way, a conference game.
Yeah, the immovable force against the whatever object, whatever that saying is. I mean, great defense, amazing offense. Grove City beat Carnegie Mellon last year. I think the Tartans, though, have a little chip on their shoulder. But honestly, Frank, I don't know. I mean, they struggled to put any points on the board against RPI. I'm going to take the Wolverines in the upset, I think. It's kind of crazy to say that, but yeah, I think Wolverines win 14-7.
Well, remember, though, that there were injuries that were mounting up on Carnegie Mellon with respect to their running back in that game and everything else, so I think they're going to be retooled a little bit this week, and that doesn't necessarily mean they can just replace him. He's excellent, but I'm going to say low scoring, but Carnegie Mellon does win this game, so we're going to split on this one, it looks like, by the score of 17-14. How's that for... Okay. Let's get this one done with here because we've been talking a lot about it. Whitewater at Barry. It's going to be Whitewater, but it's going to be closer than last year, I think. 27-17.
Yeah, I'll take the Warhawks. Yeah, 27-14 sounds about right.
Trine at Franklin. Hit it.
Thunder rolls big. I think they're going to win 49-28.
And the thunder rolls. Is that what the song was? Yeah, Trine does roll here. What are we going to say? 40-20. Baldwin Wallace at John Carroll. I just, look, Baldwin Wallace, your representative on our show, will just keep it that way right now, said it himself that it was supposed to be 2 easy games to start this season, and it has not played out that way for you. You're 1-1, and you almost lost the second one. John Carroll also, though, not exactly looking spellbinding out there, so we will say John Carroll wins 24-20.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the team from University Heights. Although maybe a higher scoring game, like 31-21 ish. But yeah, I'll take the Streaks.
I'm curious to see where you go with this one because you named this one as one to watch, and we both named it as the game of the week. But I don't think we know too much about either one of these teams. So here we go: Illinois College and Monmouth. Hit it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna defer to the home team, and I know that they've had success in their conference over the years. They're usually in the mix. Coach Cat has given us a little background on this stuff in the past, so I'll go with Monmouth. Score, I don't know, like 35-21.
Hold on, I really do have to study up on this for a second. Illinois College so far this season, 1-1, 38-20 win versus Lakeland, 40-14 win loss versus Chicago. Yep. Whereas Monmouth lost to Wartburg 34-7, but beat Grinnell 48-0. That tells me absolutely nothing about these teams.
Nothing. Yeah. Yep.
Home team wins.
A playoff team potentially. So yeah.
Home team wins here. I would say 2017. Not exactly a score fest against two defenses that should show up for that one, I think. Redlands at Linfield. Linfield wins, but it's going to be close. That's my theory here. 30-27 in favor of Linfield as Redlands tries to bounce back, but just falls short in a game that's really a must-win for them just to get on track mentally. It doesn't affect anything for the SCIAC, but it's going to affect their mentality if they start 0-3 at this point.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Cat Dome. I think they're gonna win 45-21.
Many people's game of the week, Hardin-Simmons at UW-Platteville. Both teams ranked at this point thanks to Platteville's win versus Bethel. Go ahead.
Yeah. Man, this is a big deal. I mean, Hardin-Simmons has not gone on the road in a long time, like we said, but they have a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove to themselves and the nation. So I guess I'm going to go with the Cowboys, which hasn't always worked out well for me. So we'll see what happens. But I think they'll hang on in a low-scoring slugfest, 27-21.
What, you don't want JB to ever go with you again? Is that right, Hardin-Simmons? Is that what's going on here? Hello?
What?
So let me ask you this question as clock runs to zero here. Are you not scared that they might be looking ahead to what's happening the next week?
Oh, I absolutely am, and I think that the Pios can take advantage of that, especially on their home court. But you know, they did go toe-to-toe with the champs last year. They should have been in the playoffs. They crushed Wayland, whoever that is, in week one. I think they've had an extra week off to prepare for this, so we'll see.
Hardin-Simmons does win it.
Yeah.
37-31.
It's hard to pick against that. I could see Platteville pulling off the upset, which would make things interesting, but Cowboys are trying to prove something, I think.
Give us a watch guide for this Saturday. What would you watch if you had your choice throughout the day or even on Friday night for that matter? You can include Ballston Spa High School hosting Columbia High School tonight in Ballston Spa, New York, if you would like as a Friday what to watch. Just throwing that out there for you.
The mayor's putting that out there. And just for anyone who's keeping track at home, the quick hits that you happen to contribute to is up on D3Football.com, so you can read all of Frank's predictions.
Yeah.
Whatever
Revelations.
I mean, the biggest game, so once again, we have a nice little spread of games. I think that SUNYville St. Lawrence game on Friday night will be interesting. Saturday, the Hardin-Simmons Platteville game is at 2 p.m., so you can tune into some other stuff. Redlands, Linfield's at 4, so that the Platteville Cowboys game will be over. You can catch the second half of that other one. But, I mean, the rest of the stuff, like you said, Frank, it's a little slim pickings. I think the best noon game is probably Muhlenberg at your Sinus, just because your sinus gave Hopkins a good run for their money, and Muhlenberg really needs to win this game to stay in the playoff hunt.
But
So
wait,
that'll be interesting.
it's a revenge game, though, for Muhlenberg. They've been waiting to get this one back from last
that's
year.
true.
This game put them behind the 8 ball for the entire season last year. They know that, and they also know they cannot lose another game, period. So I just don't see it as being a close game. I think the proverbial spending your wad has occurred for your sinus in that Johns Hopkins game. They're not going to catch Muhlenberg by surprise. No way in hell.
Yeah, probably not. But that should be a good one. It's cool actually. Saturday night we got Ohio Northern at Heidelberg at 7 p.m. There's a ton of noon games and then 1 o'clock games. A lot of NESCOC games just getting going. What else is there? A few things here and there. Merchant Marine hosting SUNY Maritime at 1 o'clock. That's interesting.
Yep.
Tufts is hosting Trinity at 1:30. Middlebury Amherst is at 2. That's kind of a late kickoff for a NESCAC game. Castleton at Norwich at 2 p.m., Frank. The Maple Sap Bucket, I think, is on the line. How do we not pick that game? But, we got our little
Norwich
friends here.
Hey, Norwich.
We'll see.
We will see. We are at a point where we should be saying goodbye to everybody for today. But again, tomorrow you will see me at Union versus Springfield in Springfield, then running back across state lines to get to WPI versus RPI. So it's a pair of New York versus Massachusetts games, one in Mass, one in New York tomorrow. I will be on the sideline of Ballston Spa hosting Columbia tonight, and giving them the Huddle treatment as I promised them. They've gone 2-0 has Ballston Spa, so I'm a proud mayor at this point with respect to our school district's team, which has the same name. But you remember, in New York, municipalities and school districts are two entirely different things. But they are Ballston Spa nonetheless. Yeah, don't even, you should see, your mailing address is a third different thing. That's a whole nother thing too. It amazes me how nothing's simple in life. Our show is it's going to be simply over right now. Have a great weekend. We will see you throughout on Twitter, and we will see you on Monday or Tuesday for Crunch Time for week 3. Bye, folks.